Okay. All right, so we'll get started. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Ilias, and I'm here from the marketing team at BCS. And with me is Andrei from the infrastructure team. How are you going, Andrei?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. Today, we'll be talking about integrating your on-prem enterprises backups with Microsoft Azure Storage. Firstly, a bit about Andrei. Andrei has been working in the IT industry for over 25 years and has many industry certifications ranging from Microsoft, AWS, VMware, and Citrix. The session will last around 30 minutes, with roughly 20 minutes for the presentation, and we'll leave 10 minutes for questions at the end. So a little bit about us for those of you who are new to BCS. At Blue Crystal Solutions, we're experts in cloud, applications, database, and IT infrastructure since 2004. And we empower organizations with cutting-edge technology to maximize your security, efficiency, productivity, and growth. And we harness our partner ecosystem with AWS, Oracle, and Microsoft, and we work with you and your team and your wider organization to deliver the best of breed IT solutions. A recording of this webinar will also be emailed to you after the presentation, so you have the luxury of listening to this twice if you so wish. Now we'll get to why we're all here, and I'll hand over to Andrei.
Thanks, Elias. Hello, everyone. Let's talk about one of the most exciting and probably one of the oldest topics in IT, backups. Hopefully, we all know backup procedures are essential for any organization, serving as a crucial defense against data loss due to a human error, data corruption, or a cyber threat like ransomware. Use of backup as a security control also being mandated by many compliance standards, meaning that insufficient backup can also create a compliance risk. Businesses typically choose between traditional backup methods and cloud storage based on their requirements for data protection. The traditional backup method involves copying data to physical media, such as tapes or hard drives, and storing it on-site or off-site. Cloud storage, on the other hand, allows businesses to store their data on remote servers that are accessed via the internet. Cloud storage providers offer a range of services from simple file storage to advanced data management solutions. Each method has its own set of benefits and drawbacks, as you can see in this slide. There is also a hybrid option which combines the previously mentioned methods and allows building highly flexible, secure, and cost-efficient backup solutions by taking advantage of each main method's benefits while minimizing the drawbacks. Let's now talk about one of the most common traditional backup infrastructure setups. It contains one or more backup servers running enterprise-level backup software like Veritas NetBackup, Commvault, VM, etc. That server is connected to a local disk storage array, NAS or SAN, where it backs up data for short-term retention. That is primarily to facilitate the most common restore scenarios. The secondary backups serving for long-term retention are then being replicated to tape media, which are stored on-site, off-site, or combination of both. Please note, this is quite a simplified view. In real life, this design often incorporates multiple backup servers across multiple data centers, range of disk storage devices and technologies, but the principle stays the same. Now, looking at that diagram, we can see one component that makes a perfect candidate for substitution with the cloud storage integration. As you can see here, all we did is replace tape media component with the cloud storage. So instead of using tapes to store archival copies of the backup data, we're now going to store backup images up in the cloud. You may ask, what benefits does that provide? One of the biggest advantages in incorporating cloud storage is cost saving. Tape equipment is an expensive investment. Not only tape library, tape drives, and tapes themselves cost money, but businesses have to pay for hardware maintenance and support, data center fees for hosting physical equipment, and last but not least, tape management costs money. That is for removing tapes from the library, transferring them to offsite location, storing them there, and bringing back to the data center for data restores when required. Then on top of that, the hardware doesn't last forever. There is a life expectancy, average figure for which is 8 to 10 years for a tape library. Tape drives are good for around 5 years. LTO tape between 15 and 30 years, depending on conditions in which they are stored. Temperature, humidity. That should help with a rough estimate on how often the new hardware needs to be purchased all over again. Now, cloud storage is very different. As a service, it comes with the consumption model of pricing, called pay-as-you-go. There is no upfront investment required. You only pay for what you use. Different access tiers and redundancy options are available within cloud storage to help creating highly customizable and cost-efficient configuration while still meeting all business requirements. Microsoft Azure Blob Storage is one of the best available offerings on the market when it comes to storing backup data in the cloud. And this is what we're going to focus on for the rest of our presentation. Although other cloud providers have similar storage services available, like S3 in AWS. It's important to choose the right access tier based on your requirements. In our case, the best option is Archive Access Tier, which is optimized for storing infrequently used data for a long period of time, that is more than 6 months. This tier has the lowest storage cost, approximately 0.3 cents per gigabyte per month. Other than the pricing, another very important aspect is the ability to secure the data in the cloud against deletes and overwrites. Unlike the tapes, which are naturally protected from those kind of events, more diligence is required when it comes to the data stored in the cloud. The best option in that respect is to leverage immutable storage feature, which allows usage of special type policies to safeguard the archival data. Two types of policies are available: time-based, when no overrides or deletes are guaranteed for specified period of time, and legal hold, when the data stays protected until the lock is explicitly removed. Please note, the backup software has to support immutable storage to seamlessly integrate with that feature. For example, NetBackup introduced that support recently with version 10. Now to the case study. One of our clients approached BCS to research on a solution alternative to a hardware refresh of their aging tape media infrastructure. The old environment consisted of 2 data centers, primary and DR. Each contains a physical backup server and a local Dell compelling disk storage array. Main site also has HP MSL tape library with 8 Ultram tape drives. All equipment was purchased over 8 years ago. Tape pool contains approximately 2,000 tapes. Tape management was done by a third-party provider who collected the tapes from the data center and transferred them offsite to a secure vault on a weekly basis. Backup software is Veritas NetBackup, consisting of 1 master server and 2 media servers. Incremental backups occurring every night and being stored on disk arrays across both data centers for 2 weeks. Full backups run every Friday night and stored on disk array for 1 month and then duplicated to tapes to be retained for 1 year. Last Friday of the month's full backup also being sent to tapes as monthly for infinite retention, that is for compliance requirements. Refresh of that hardware, new library and the drives was quoted at $50K plus for the client. Annual support on tape library hardware quoted at $17K per year. Tape consumable cost estimated to stay at around $7,000 a year. Here's the design we came up with and then successfully implemented. We used Azure Archive Tier Storage as the destination for secondary copies of the backup data. For that, a new Azure subscription was provided by the customer, where we created a new storage account with 2 blob storage containers for 2 different retention periods. The integration between NetBackup and Azure was made possible by upgrading NetBackup to version 9, which introduced full support for Azure Storage, and by setting up 2 new disk pools pointed to Azure Blob Storage containers under NetBackup Media Server Deduplication Pool Storage Server. Doing that instead of setting up a new Azure Storage Server within NetBackup allowed us to take advantage of standard MSDP features like compression and deduplication. To protect storage containers and storage account from accidental removal, we created and applied a cannot delete lock via an Azure blueprint. This safeguard measure was necessary since NetBackup version 10, which introduced support for immutable storage, was not yet available at the time of the design and implementation. Within NetBackup, we updated storage lifecycle policies accordingly to point them to the new target pools. As a result of the above changes, client was able to meet their long-term backup storage objectives at a fraction of the cost of the hardware replacement. Azure Storage bill for that account now sits at around $7,000 a year for storing approximately 200 terabytes of data. In case a restore is required, the data will be available within few hours compared to 1 day plus needed for the tape recall process. That's all I had.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that, Andrei. Now is time for questions. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we can get Andrei here to answer them. In the meantime, I do have a couple of questions for you myself, Andrei.
Yeah, sure.
So to summarize, what are the most important features that allow organizations to reduce their costs in Azure for storage?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Elias. Yeah, a couple of aspects I would mention, and some of them I'm basically repeating the slides. First of all, choose the right tier in the cloud storage. If you're looking to store the data for a long period of time, which is 6 months or more, then archive tier is the best match for that because it offers you the lowest storage cost. However, if your retention policy requires the data to be stored for less than that, I would suggest also paying attention to the cold tier storage, which offers a slightly higher price for the storage of the data, but the retrieval cost is lower, plus the data is available for the restore instantly, because the data stored in archive tier is stored offline. So to make it available, you need to go through a rehydration process, and that takes up to a couple of hours. So that's in regards to the tier. The second point is if your backup software supports it, use data compression and deduplication. It allows massive savings. In particular, for example, if your backup is based on, like if you're backing up your workload, let's say, is a virtual machines and you're backing them up agentlessly through the snapshot-based backup, it allows you to achieve 90+% deduplication rate when you store. So you store less data essentially in Azure. Then the other point is make sure your retention policies are right, because you don't want to have them longer than it is required, because that will incur additional cost when you store that data in Azure. And probably the final feature I want to mention is Azure Storage has so-called Azure Storage Reserved Capacity, which works similar to Azure VM reserved instances, where by committing to use certain amount of data, you can save money. So for example, if you know that for the next year, you will use not less than 100 terabytes of storage in Azure, you can pre-purchase that option and it's going to be cheaper. So as far as I know, there are 2 periods for the reserved storage capacity, 1 year and 3 years. So you choose just depending on your business needs.
Right, okay. Great. Is any questions popped up yet? No, not yet.
No further questions.
That's okay. So got a couple more for you that hopefully we can pertain to everybody else as well.
Sure.
So can a similar outcome be of integration be achieved with other cloud providers like Amazon?
Yes, Amazon has a very similar offering with the S3 Glacier storage, and the cost is also similar, maybe slightly lower than Microsoft Azure. Also, AWS actually has another interesting feature called Virtual Tape Storage Service, which allows simulating a physical tape library in the cloud. So the storage cost is even lower with that option. However, there is some overhead having to set up a tape gateway appliance in AWS to make it work. So that's something that businesses may consider also exploring as potential option for storing the data in the cloud.
Right. Okay, well, I'll just ask, any questions popped up yet? Not yet.
No.
All right. So just a final question for you, Andrei. Now, security is on the tips of everybody's tongues these days. How does cloud storage, integrate with security? And then on the other hand, what kind of protection is available against things like accidental data deletion and that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a good question, and definitely a very important topic, and we could probably spend hours just talking about the security itself. But I'll just briefly touch based on what partially already been covered and a few new points. The protection of the data when it's stored in Azure, it's a paramount, and Microsoft does a very good job as guaranteeing that the data that is stored in Azure and is transferred to and from Azure is secure. So the main way of achieving that is using encryption. So Microsoft provides data encryption at rest and data encryption through TLS for the data in transit. So that's for making sure that the data is staying secure in the cloud and is being transferred securely. When it comes to authorization for the access to the data, because that's an important topic, that when you integrate the software, the backup software with the cloud, you need to set up the right access for the backup software to have in Azure Cloud. So for that, one of the best features that you can use is leveraging shared access signature, which allows you to use SAS tokens to guarantee access for the service that you need access to the cloud. SAS feature also allows you to revoke access if your key has been compromised, so it's flexible and it's recommended by Microsoft in these kind of scenarios. When it comes to protecting the data from accidental removal or overrides, as I mentioned, time-based retention policy with immutable storage is the way to go, but your backup software needs to support it. What if it doesn't? You have two other levels of providing you that kind of protection. The first layer of defense would be a blob and container soft delete feature, which acts in a similar way to the recycle bin, where the data, when it's deleted, it's not physically removed, so it stays available for a certain period of time. And that time, that period of soft delete is configurable. So you have options to set it up from 1 day to 1 year. And the second layer for protection is what we implemented actually in our case study, is using Azure Blueprint. Amongst other features that Blueprints provide is a feature called like a lock. So you can apply non-delete lock to your resources in Azure. So in this case, we locked our storage account and all the data that sits underneath with that Azure Blueprint. So that guarantees that no one can accidentally actually go and delete a container from within the storage account or even the storage account itself.
Right. Wow. Great. Thank you so much for that, Andrei. Now, as there's no more questions in the chat, that's it for the presentation. So thank you very much, Andrei, and thank you everybody for joining. If you have any more questions or you'd like to learn more about our infrastructure support services or about how we can help you save money in terms of storage and cloud, please contact us today via the email on the slides. You can also feel free to check out our website and our social medias. We have these webinars once a month about varying different topics. So please stay in the loop for more information. We'll be sending out a recording of this, so you'll be able to watch it again at your discretion. So thank you again, Andrei, and thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.